Thank you for watching this video tutorial about how to fill out Aaronson Grand Paralegal Services workbook for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Just a quick reminder, folks, we are not attorneys, we cannot provide legal advice or representation, so we're only limited to prepare the documents that are required by the federal law to prepare the documents for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and review the workbook. The first part is information for you, so we hope you will read it, and if you have any questions about that, brief description about bankruptcy, what it does, and our role as petition preparers. And beginning in this page, with the client information, that's the information that we need in order to fill out the documents for your case. I'll provide a brief explanation of this section. If you have any further questions, please feel free to give us a call or to send us an email so we can clarify specific questions or doubts you may have. This first part regards to the information about you. We need to know if you have filed bankruptcy in the past, then yes or no, if it was dismissed, or if it was discharged in the past 8 years, then let us know the case number, location, what district or state, and what was the end result if it was discharged or dismissed. Also your marital status, if you're single, married, or separated. This information is important because as a couple you are only allowed to file jointly, and if that was the case. But if you are separated or not living together, or if you're living together, we need to know about your specifics as far as income and if there is a separate or different household or not. In that case, we'll talk about more about that a little bit later, but what we need to know is the combined household income. So if your spouse lives somewhere else and his or her income doesn't go to your household, then we need to know that. Also, if you are married, then you have the opportunity to file either individually in this box or jointly with your spouse in this box. If you're a veteran, then the information will be here. Then down below on question 5A, we need to know about your name and the personal information. If you are married, then your spouse and filing together, then your spouse is a co-debtor. So you will be here, you're the debtor, the person with the debt, and your spouse is your co-debtor. We need to know your name, full name here, other names you may have used in the past 8 years, social security number or tax ID. If you don't have one, then let us know that you don't have one. And your physical address should be down here, the county you live on, and your phone number. Also, if you have dependents that are living with you in the same household, the information will be here. We need to know about their names, their age, and relationship to you. If you own a real estate property, a house or a condo, for instance, the information will be in this section. If you reside in the home, then let us know, saying yes, and your address here, a brief description of your property, number of bedrooms and bathrooms, the value of the property, how much is the current value, which tends to be different than the loan balance. If there is any lien in your property, a mortgage for instance, the information will be here. This is the most common situation. And who has your loan, who's the lender, account number and address, and the loan balance. In the case that you may have a second mortgage, the information will be in this section right here. With any debt that is secure, and there's a description here in this box, essentially any debt that is backed by a collateral, a piece of property or an object, you need to tell the court what your intentions are. If your idea is to continue the property, that's called reaffirm. If the idea is to give the property back to the lender, that is called surrender. In any case, let us know that same section, the concept, will apply to the next page as well, but a little more specific. In this particular case, in the next page, we're talking about vehicles. If you have a vehicle, then we need to know that information, whether it's something like a car, a motorcycle, a boat, RV, anything like that, a make, model, year, mileage, what condition you think it is, poor, fair, good, and the value. If it's yours free and clear, then should be a check mark where it says wholly owned. If you're making payments on it, then here where it says loan payments, and the information on this section will be for your lender. Who's the creditor, what's the account number, their address, about when this debt began, and what is the loan balance. That information will be typically different than the one that it shows here for value. Remember, the value is the current market value of the vehicle, and this portion is the current balance on your debt. If you have more than one car or vehicle, the information goes down below. The last part of that page corresponds to other secure debt, such as furniture or TV set, a computer that you may have from a furniture place, a rental center place. It's same as before. The proper description, what it is, the value, who's the creditor or lender, and what your intentions are. Do you want to keep the property? That's called reaffirm. You want to bring it back? That's called surrender. If you decide to reaffirm the property, keep in mind the assumption is that you will continue making the payments on that property so you can keep it. That's the idea behind this. On the next page, we're talking about a different kind of debt called priority debts. Those are considered more like obligations, and these ones are not very common, but if they have to ask you to go over them, let me know if you have them. We need to know about them. From this section, the most common ones that I see are domestic support obligations, aka child support or alimony. We need to know who's the creditor, where the payments go, the monthly amount, and also the address if there's an account number, the last 4 digits of the account number. This next section this portion of this section corresponds to debts are mostly associated with businesses, such as extension of credit and involuntary case, or if you owe wages, salaries, commissions to employees you may have, or if you have any contribution given to you for an employee plan that you manage, then that should be here. If your operation corresponds to a farm or a fishery of any sort that is a family owned, then that will probably be in this part here. Or the last one, question number 6, deposit by individuals that may have contributed to a plan that you are manager as an employer. These are not very common. On the next page, if you owe taxes, that information will be here. Question number 7, any tax or government debt should be disclosed here. The next two ones are also very uncommon. If you were to have a debt that is court mandated because of death or injury that you created or intoxicated, then that type of debt remains with you during and after bankruptcy. That is essentially true for all priority debts. This next section corresponds to contracts. If you have any contract that is current right now, like an apartment lease, typically 1 year contracts, or cell phones, typically 2-year service contracts, that information will be here. If you want to keep that contract, that's called assume. If you want to stop that contract, that's called reject. The court will ask you to let them know what your intentions are with this particular type of contracts. When it comes to Schedule B, personal property, the information will be here. Simply go down the list. If you happen to have any of the things mentioned on this list, like a cash on hand or a checking or savings account, then let us know the information that is being asked in this section. Remember that your clothing here, jewelry if you have any, question number 5, if you have any books or art objects or collection for stamps, coins, things that may have a value, that information will be here. These are not very common, but may apply to you, so let us know if you do. The next part of that, this section, this next page, this will be more for your furniture or appliances. If you have them, and let us know what's the fair market value that you think those items will bring if you were to sell them. And same here, Schedule C exceptions is a list of different exceptions and some concepts that hopefully clarify the whole idea for you. On the next page, we now need to know about your monthly income. Now, this will be the income that you bring in the upper part from employment. If you are married, whether or not your spouse is filing, we need to know his or her income as well. Remember, we need to know the household income from any source. This upper part, it corresponds to employment. This secondary part here below corresponds to any other source of income, such as Social Security or state assistance, child support. This part here. Then at the bottom of that page, any monthly income, not income but expenses, needs to be disclosed. Very specific expenses should be here, like a rent or utilities, food, transportation costs, not just gasoline, but oil change, repairs, anything like that. That should be disclosed on this section. Remember, income and expenses are given on monthly basis. For the past couple of years, then income coming from any source. This first section, the first one, as an employee, if you're a W-2 employee, most people are, then that will be your income for the past calendar years and how much so far for this year. If your income happens to come from other sources, that is not employment, it will be in the second part, question number 2, such as payment from Social Security, unemployment benefits, child support, things like that, should be disclosed on this section. Beginning on 3A, there is the second questionnaire that the court has regarding your financial situation for the last couple of years. There's many questions here that are not very common. The only thing that I find tricky about this part is that every question has its own time frame. So as you read these questions, be mindful of number 1, reading the question completely, carefully, and number 2, be mindful of the time frame. Are they talking about any court action? For instance, this question 4A, any court action brought against you in the past 12 months, or any garnishment that has been created as a consequence of a court action in the past 12 months. Number 5, any property that's been repossessed by a creditor, a vehicle has been repossessed, or foreclosure on the home. That information will be number 5, again for the last 12 months. But then question 6A talks about any attachment of property for the benefit of a creditor in the past 120 days. So again, just read over this question carefully, tell me which one applies to you, and be mindful of the time frame. Many of these ones will not apply to you, I can almost guarantee that, but some of them might. It's your job to let me know which one of these ones applies to you. Another tricky one here, number 15. Remember, this part is about property or addresses you have lived and moved from. You are not there anymore, but you have lived there in the past 3 years. Very often I get information about current address. I don't need that, I have that already. So this is only for the past 3 years, places that you have lived but you do not longer occupy. Make sure to read this section, information for you, and sign at the bottom. And this next page is mostly information about different concepts for bankruptcy, what's the Chapter 7 trustee, what automatic stay means, what's an exception, things like that. One thing about this page that I recommend to pay attention to is here in this part. Make sure to obtain, I would recommend, I should say that way, I would recommend that you obtain a recent copy of the credit report, because any account, any bill or statement or collection or creditor that you may not remember because it's too old, or you never get that information, or who knows, now's the time to include it. Remember, any debt, any creditor or collection that is not mentioned in these documents is not in bankruptcy. Therefore, if it's not mentioned here, you are likely to be responsible for that debt down the road. So now's the time to do all the research, find that information, and put it here. Which leads me to the last part, creditor information. This will be the bulk of your debt, by far unsecured debt, and all we need here is very simple. Just what's the creditor's name on this part, who is the one that issued the debt in the first place, what is their address, full address, cities, zip code, everything. And if this debt was transferred to a collection, down here where it says assignee, this is the collections agency for this particular creditor. So we need to know their name and their address. Up here, the account and the amount. And if we have any more information, such as this is a secure, unsecured debt, then we need to know that also. But essentially, creditor's name, address, assignee names and address, account, and amount. The only way the court will communicate with them will be by letters. The court will not call them, the court will not email them. It's only by letters. That's why it's very important to have the complete address for your creditors and your collection. This information repeats over and over. If you need more space, you may feel free to make copies. And that should be it. If you have any questions about this, let us know. Again, we're just a phone call or email away. Hope you found this tutorial to be interesting and informative. Have a good one.